Taliyah, a champion that wasn't on the buffs or nerfs list, and so is going to skyrocket into some prevalence, as the Gwen's still going to be banned away, this time on the blue side, quickly enough.
On the red side, I wonder if DRX will drop the Kalista ban. We saw a lot of drops of that ban yesterday, and just ban Faker's Azir and take that away from him. I think that's a pretty easy choice you can make in a draft like this in game one. Just take that stable, easy B1 pick away from T1, and then you could even ban Xin Zhao with it. So like now we have Vi, Xin Zhao, and I feel like the Azir slots in quite nicely, especially now that Taliyah's already banned. Doran also not likely to play the Jace, as T1 will give him the freebie extra ban.
I would ban Pantheon if I was DRX. You just hope that the Neferi nerfs are going to be enough to stop Owner from playing that champion, and then just ban away Pantheon. And I think they're the most dangerous Owner picks at this point in time.
I do agree that if you were going to ban a third jungler, that would be the one. But they'll take the Azir I was suggesting instead.
Probably smarter, but I just like, I think that banning out Owner forever is just a really good idea against this team.
Such a T1 move, right? Ban the Taliyah, you get either the Victor or the Azir on blue side. They've done this so many times this season where they just first pick a safe pick for Faker and then draft around that.
Oh dear.
Sponge looking for the Neferi. Now he's had a few very good games on this pick. They could go Neferi Jace here.
They don't need to pick the Jace. So they could, if there's something else that they feel is higher priority, they could leave the Jace because we're not expecting Doran to play it. And I think Rumble, certainly something that Doran would prefer to gravitate to. There's that Pantheon, yeah, that we were talking about. An understandable lock-in here, and the Jace will be locked away for Doran. He is happy to play it, just hasn't had as much success on it as our other Jace players.
Even though Rumble has also been, you know, this season, we haven't been super high on the pick and where it is priority-wise. We've had a few Rumble games, you know, over the last week and a half that have been pretty insane. But the Jace is really strong into the Rumble early, have played well. And I think Doran, despite that big loss he had on the pick, is going to stay away from it. Is another Annie draft. You and I were talking about this before the show. I said it when we did the pre-show yesterday. I was like, Annie's coming back in mid lane 100% here in the LCK. Yep. And now two of our east side teams have already locked in. We saw Vikla play it yesterday and UCal likely to play it here. I suppose it still could be flex to Andil, but I think it is going to be a mid pick.
Yeah, this is absolutely huge. I love the fact that Annie is back in the meta. I just think that the champion really helps our teams that are struggling with coordination. You know, you give the Annie to a player who is very vocal. We know UCal, pretty vocal. He doesn't need to think about what he's doing with his hands because Annie doesn't really require very many of them. And so he can just be that cheerleader that we know him for, flash tibbers, start fights, make things happen. We'll see how it goes. There is a lot of cooking, though, in this team already. A lot of mid-game power behind both the Equalizer and Tibbers combination, right? You can hold them in place, and the fact that Neferi does want to get that snowball rolling. Some support bans coming on through here is the Tahm Kench that has risen to some priority recently.
Yeah,
going to be taken away from Keria.
Kellen played it with Diablo on the Jinx, and we know how much Keria loves to play Tahm Kench, looking for his 5,000 assists. Guma loves to play his Jinx, so they could still go Jinx Lulu in this draft if they want to, but the Xayah has been such a go-to here. This feels like such a T1 blue side game one draft in like every single metric. And sure, the Jace isn't one that you're super excited about based on Doran's performances so far this season, but you know he will play it. You know he has played it so many times in the past. It's just such a staple pick here. And yeah, you don't have the recon for this Xayah here, but there's a lot else you can still lock in. Like, you can still even play Nautilus here, and I feel like it works pretty well. Gragas is one that Keria has gone to a lot.
Kind of like the Gragas idea, being able to split up the fight, get the cow out of there, stop easy, comfortable engages from coming through. And Keria has, I mean, I remember back on DRX, you know, one of the most terrifying lanes for Defton Keria was actually the Kalista Gragas. His Gragas mechanics, I think, second only maybe to peak performance Tucson from back in the day.
Yeah.
But his support Gragas is absolutely fantastic. Theoretically, a flex, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, in other patches, we might be like, oh, is it Pantheon support? Is it a Gragas jungle game from Owner? But I don't think in this meta. Ooh, I love this Jhin pick here. Actually, you have such great setup. Because you have the Neferi, you have the Alistair for frontline, and they're going in. The Annie is also going to be looking to lock somebody down, and the Jhin can follow up no matter where Annie is. If Annie is on the other side of the Baron pit, if Annie is flashing a wall to set up the stun, doesn't matter where Jhin is because he can just instantly open up his ultimate and look to follow up. The problem is getting through this Pantheon and getting through Owner and the power that this Pantheon has right now in this meta, and how much of a team that T1 is that plays around global so well. Whether it's Faker on the Talia, whether it's his TF, whether it's, you know, when Zeus was playing TF top, this team uses global champions insanely well, and Pantheon's not technically global, but he has a huge range at which he can impact side lanes. And when the Jace is winning the side lane, if Doran is putting that pressure on, the Pantheon gets so much more power there. It's also a pretty low-range composition that's looking to dive into a Xayah. I feel like this is one of the better Xayah angles, not just because Guma has had great performances on the pick, because it's so good into DRX's draft. So I love what both teams have put together here, honestly, Atlas, but I do, again, think when you put the nameplates on, slight favor to T1.
Yeah, this is the thing. When a draft is even slightly even, it does force you to have a look more at who's going to be piloting them rather than anything else. And I would agree with you. I think T1 have certainly made it out like bandits as far as the mid jungle is concerned. We know jungle is going to be where our eyes are glued in this game. But this is once again the Annie experiment that we saw work yesterday. It's a powerful top side of the map and some early game strength. See how it goes. We jump into the rift.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the rift for our first match of the evening and our second of the week. T1 taking on DRX. And as the Spirit Blossom blooms, see who's going to be able to take a victory here. I'm not sure how I feel about the rift changing all the time. It can confuse me as an old man.
It is, I don't know, I think it's fun.
Yeah, no, it is fun. And I was complaining because remember back in the day we had like the Autumn Rift and like the Halloween Rift, and we had the Winter Rift and stuff back before everything was updated in 2014. That was really cool, and I was always calling for it to come back, and now I'm like, oh yeah, but now everything looks confusing and I don't know what's going on. And so I think what I'm trying to say is that it's very difficult to please everyone.
Yeah, I think it generally is. I do like the way the fountain looks. In particular, I think it looks very nice. Feels like a completely different vibe.
Yep.
And it's a huge change from the
It makes you
theme.
know which side of the map you're on.
Yeah.
You know, like, I feel like you're way more aware of it. I know, you know, the fact that, you know, you have to walk down rather than walk up is, you know, the main difference. But the zoom-ins at the start, when we're having a look at both teams, it's clearly they're on different sides of the map.
100%. Yeah.
So I guess when you're playing the game, it doesn't actually impact that much. But when we're watching here, it certainly does.
It can be good for players who have confusion about that at the start of the game.
Yeah, like Atlas, whose brain is small.
So this will be UCal's first pick of the season, of course, on the Annie. LazyField did pick up a win on the Jhin when they played it last week.
Oh. Not quite going to find the barrel, but otherwise is going to be more than okay. Keria and Gamushi just clearing out vision where they can.
It's always fun to zoom in on this lane with the rookie foreigner in LazyField up against, you know, Guma Keria, who have been historically one of the most successful bottom 2v2 duos of all time, but not so much this season. Has not been the same level of dominance. So exciting to see what LazyField might be able to try to, with Ondil's help, accomplish here. Top side, we haven't looked at it yet, but you can see Jace is naturally building a lead. That was the other thing that they opted for, the blind rumble, expecting, as you and I were, that Doran would perhaps shy away from the Jace. He is building that lead up there right now.
Yep, certainly working out. I think this is to be expected. I think even DRX were expecting this. Doran just isn't necessarily the same kind of hard carry Jace player as we move later and later into the game, right? Like, you give Zeus a Jace, for example, and he wins the game almost alone. And that's not something that you can necessarily trust Doran to do quite as consistently. As level 3 going to be hit by Gamushi and Keria as they're continuing to put the pressure on. You can see about a wave in the lead, but about a wave is still approaching DRX, so nothing too much to worry about here.
Cal is a stun prepped here, so there's an angle to try to get Faker's flash.
Molten Shield for that extra movement speed. As Faker going to see what he can do here. Gravity Field is going to be pretty powerful as Owner coming in, Daggers coming out, and Sponge going to be able to avoid the stun quite nicely.
Okay, Faker's still, though, fairly low here. Not sure if he'll stick around. They will need some help. Keria does come over. So is Ondil. This has suddenly turned into a bit of a 3v3 here in the mid lane.
Yep.
Faker handled it really well, though. Did not flash. Used his gravity field. Got the stun onto the Neferi. And now it's going to be Sponge heading to top. Scuttle. and is actually being followed by Owner, in fact, so the fight will continue. You have to imagine here.
Yeah, it looks like Sponge will be able to just come on over and take that
trying to
away
a mid gank.
quickly. Wow, the full wraparound and the ward value that UCal got there, pretty dang high.
Yeah, that was such a clever move from Owner. He is going to be seen, of course, by that ward, but that was really slick.
Yeah, really cool stuff. I actually kind of expected that he would also head over towards that top side, try and contest for the double scuttle. Not going to be greedy, just going to be opportunistic, and I absolutely love that. As Carrier doesn't have a whole lot of mana, Deadly Flourish is going to help soften up the Gragas, but not too much else going to come out of this, especially with Gomiushi making his way up the lane. Carrier not wanting to start anything as Rich is flashing for Doran, who will immediately respond with his own. Okay, that's not quite what I was expecting as we take our first look at the top side of the map.
Yeah, very aggressive play there from Rich, looking for the slow. Had a trading pattern, I guess, moments before off camera that would have allowed him to get that Jace low enough to where a slow would have killed him. So good flash there in response from Doran. Denied him a cannon off the play.
Yeah, high value.
Otherwise, just a trade of flashes will be a trade of teleports. You can see Doran tried to stop Rich's back. I think he was successful. So slight delay there. And otherwise not going to come anything out of that. But does give both junglers a little bit more power with both flashes down in the top side. Onto lurking over here.
And it is even more scary than usual. Speaking of scary, Gomiushi taking, Lazyfield taking a fair bit of damage as Goma goes aggressive. But as level 6 is being approached, the Annie needs to be mentioned again. Because of course, Flash Tibbers is still exactly what it was all those years ago.
Yes. And even just a few years ago.
Yes. Yes.
And then many more years ago than like all those years ago.
Owner flashed, and Rich walked.
Nice press scrap shield.
Yep, nice work on the walking. Just out of range, you could imagine, there for Owner.
Nice attempt there, but now feeling bad about losing the flash, and Sponge is going to be seen by this ward, so nothing should come of it. UCal gets 6.
Yep, he's going to get stunned up by this gravity field, and he's tanking an entire wave as well, so I think you're going to need to be, doesn't need to be as careful.
Baker's so safe in that last exchange with Sponge and didn't have to flash, now generated a small CS lead, got Prio, is going to come up here and challenge Sponge with Owner, playing the Victor out incredibly well.
Yep. As we'd expect for Faker on this champion, he's been so good at it so far this year.
He has
mentioned before that he does have a relatively small champion pool at the moment, but this pick has been very good for him.
Absolutely. UCal's going to be super happy he can pick up some of this honey fruit for a dragon contest and scuttle contest. And it looks like it's just going to be the scuttle they grab for now. UCal did buy his Boots of Lucidity, whereas Faker got some magic resistance, which will help him in this lane. Here comes Sponge, though, and they can try to dive Faker if he's greedy, but he's just simply not. Faker's positioning has been so good in this lane. He's played through so many Annie metas in the mid lane, so he's pretty familiar with how the matchup works.
Yeah, he's been playing against Annie for like well over a decade. So you could imagine probably not going to be tricked too many times. There have, of course, been some pretty big moments where Annie was in the meta. You mentioned it. I always think of Knight, you know? And it wasn't great memories.
You know, something to mention, too, is Faker has had, even though he's had these stable champions he's been drafted oftentimes, kind of pushed out of lane by a lot of different players, you know? He struggled against, most recently, Closer in that B&K series, right? But
yeah,
he's generated a pretty significant lead here, was a lot of attention given to the mid lane by Sponge and Owner, who helped bail Faker out there, but Faker actually having a really nice start in this game. So the big bounce back, you'll have to see this after the GOAT has had some mediocre early games. Not this time.
Well, Grand Starfall going to come in here as the equalizer goes down from Rich, but I don't think he's going to survive. Does take a while for him to go down, and Doran ticking, but still has 100 health, so he is going to be A-OK. First blood going over to T1 and taking down the Rumble, a big deal here for this squad.
Yeah, just such a long engage range for the Pantheon, and Rich didn't respect it. And unfortunately barely dies there, but does end up going down, or barely doesn't get the kill back, I should say, as a fight here in mid.
Yeah, Headbutt Bolt coming on through there as the Chaos Storm, or the Arcane Storm, as it is now known.
This is a really big timing, though, because the grubs spawn at 8 minutes. They're the only grubs you can get. Now they can contest, actually, with that ultimate from Faker.
All right.
Or will they? I think they should.
See whether Sponge can at least lock down the next one. Kind of important here, and is going to be able to do so. as Owner coming on in. And that is going to be all 3. Actually, never mind. T1 actually able to get one of them.
Yep, they got
a little bit
one.
confused.
But it's still the feats of strength is 2 for 3 now, so DRX do get the objective feat of strength off of that. And having 2 grubs is pretty big. And it's like having 4 grubs, kind of. Not exactly, but similar with the new way that the grubs work on this patch. So big win here for DRX, despite the fact that Faker was able to get that wave pushed in with his Chaos Storm. Able to actually get the contest away.
Yeah, it's sort of not really how it works, but I just sort of divide the grubs in half now and just apply everything to half the number that I would have otherwise applied it to. And that helps my brain. As LazyField does find himself a nice little stun, but Doran answers really well there. And now Doran gonna have to play some DDR, and look at that, side to side to side to side, and he absolutely nails it. LazyField even giving up as he just kills the wave.
This could be a trick though, good ward from Doran.
Yeah. Oh, Shock Blast almost just killing LazyField, and thankfully for LazyField, he walks onto... Okay, there's the flash, and the answer does come through. There's the headbutt from Andil! Down he goes! Oh no, Doran absolutely baited. Still does get the flash, I guess, but that doesn't feel good.
Oh man, it was so well handled by Doran. He avoided all of the shots. He came over there, he had the shock blast. He's like, I've got flash, I'm going in on this, and...
You can understand exactly why he did what he did. I think now, in hindsight, it was a little much.
It was not necessary to commit that hard, but he almost got a kill, and had Andil not been there, he would have been like, all right, well, whatever, I walk away from this. He had TP as well to go to the bottom lane after the play, so could have just walked away, but if LazyField decides he wants to be greedy, Doran doesn't hit these and, you know, doesn't flash that, then, like, he actually gets a kill. Otherwise, he gets LazyField's flash no matter what. So, you can see the thought process, but the end result is not going to be on Doran's highlight reel, unfortunately.
This might, though. Let's see whether he can get some sort of outplay potential onto Rich. And the answer is no. Rich distracted by this minion wave, as he does have to run back to get it. Keria moving in. There's another headbutt poke here from Andil, but Owner is coming on over. And Keria is looking for an opportunity.
The laning stats here not looking great for DRX in this early game in terms of CS. Even though Doran died in the kind of lane swap situation up there, he is almost 20 CS up. As Yukao's going to drop a bear. Yep,
here's Tibbers. The Arcane Storm down as well, but not able to get another stun. And it is a very even trade. As, look at this, the arcane-powered Tibbers just attacking the GOAT over and over. And that is going to be T1 locking down the Dragon. Flash pulled onto 3, though. Deadly Flourish comes down. Equalizes fantastic. Featherstorm buying so much space, though, as Gumayusi looks for an opportunity with the Flash. But now it's gone a little bit too far. Or has Sponge, who goes untargetable and just says, I'm an Ascendant. He will do so. The bleed's ticking, but not ticking enough. And Protect the President is in full effect, as Gumayusi will survive.
Yukao does not have teleport, doesn't join the fight. Decides to push for plates instead. I saw the angles there for DRX, but the play on the side of T1 was just too good. And now Owner shows up with his ultimate. LazyField gonna get stunned.
Yep, flash on in as Gumayusi maybe didn't need to be there, but Deadly Flourish was definitely not gonna land. So down goes the Jhin. And the woes of DRX continue here in this early to mid game.
Yeah, it's these types of scrappy fights that T1 are so known for. They're so good at. They're so famed for. As you see the teleport coming through from Faker, and Yukao isn't able to stop it. But that's not really the big story here. The big story is Guma going in for this play here. Knows LazyField is now out of shots, and then Owner peeling with the Pantheon here. And then even when the ult comes out from Jhin, everybody's like, nope, you can't hit Guma. And he doesn't have his buttons anymore. So we kill the Naafiri and keep Guma alive. LazyField here is just like, all right, well, I guess I'll try to clear. This is very greedy. He is punished for it instantaneously. There's so much vision here as well, so that Owner knows there's no one lurking around. He also won the team fight just before, so I think he's pretty aware, but like, there was just no angle, unfortunately, for LazyField in which this was going to be okay if Owner pressed R, and he did. So the lead here for T1 starting to balloon a little bit, and that also gets the feats of warfare on the board.
Yeah, so not quite with feats of strength just yet, needing a first turret or perhaps a couple more objectives. So DRX still in with a fighting chance, I guess. But this game is really starting to feel like the power level of these players slightly varied. That's all I'm going to say. DRX not really finding too many windows. I do think that they have tools The problem is that the power spike for this composition is sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And T1 are already hitting their stride, and they've got a Xayah, they've got a Victor, they have got so much power. Not to mention the fact that Keria can really single out these carries from DRX and make things difficult if they want to try and death ball.
It's really hard to, you know, play this comp when you fall too far behind because, yeah, you could still, it's very simple, like you said, and we've talked about so much with Annie, but if the Annie doesn't get the kill, oh,
This is a special steak delivery here, as Andal is going to be providing it. T1, all three of them just around the dinner table. Deathray will be able to secure it. And I'd say that's medium rare.
Yeah, most people like to enjoy a nice steak at home that they prepare themselves or at a fancy restaurant, but Keria's changing the meta. He will deliver it from time to time.
Yeah.
Lazy feel. Careful.
I think maybe with the fact that the cask came down first, do we call that sous vide?
I guess so, yeah.
You know, because it may not necessarily be warm. It's okay, teleport in. See whether Rich can find an angle here as the equalizer goes down. Keria and Doran now to walk up the red carpet, and they do just walk. And now Rich is the one that's out of position. Yukal came in, but is able to walk out. Had to invest the teleport in a play that isn't necessarily working. Let's see whether we find ourselves as stunned, as it doesn't quite work. Gumayusi in trouble though, and he will just burn down. So finally they get their prize that they've been looking for oh so long. And Gumayusi does go down, but they have to trade it for this outer turret on the top side of the map. Faker will be taking that. That will secure feats of strength here for T1.
I think the thought process for T1 is while Faker doesn't have teleport, he could just call, all right, just delay the fight there. We have a Pantheon ult. He can join in instantly, and I'll get this turret. Unfortunately, Guma ended up being an unnecessary casualty, I would argue, there in this fight, but T1 were very aware that they had control of the map, and that's first brick, which means feats of strength. So Faker has just probably made this call a million years ago when the fight breaks out, and this is a very aggressive teleport angle here from the Annie, right? This means that Keria and Doran have to walk up as we're actually going to live, where Rich is...
Yeah, he's flashing on Faker. Sponge is moving in, but there's another teleport. Owner is already here. Rich is definitely dead, guys. And Sponge is just going to walk himself out of there. Did not need any professional dog walks or anything like that. He knew exactly where to go.
Yeah, sadly we didn't get to see the end of that replay, as I really wanted to see what how Guma got cut off there. I guess he just wasn't quite able to rejoin his teammates and ended up falling, because I like the play from T1 there in the last moments. Now they made another proactive one. And yes, there was a split pushing Annie on the other side, didn't have teleport, but she's not quite able to get the turret. And first blood, that ship is, or first brick has already sailed that ship, so. Doran?
Well, he is going to go to the skies, and so is Sponge. He's just dead. Doran just locks him down. That was a very strange situation, and I don't think anyone was expecting the electrocute Jace to just come out of their base, basically.
Yeah, that was, that last electrocute proc probably might have made Sponge jump out of his seat a little bit, as he thought maybe he was safe there. It didn't flash, but did, of course, pop. Now Faker's looking for another turret here on the bottom side, as T1 have really just grabbed hold of this game. It doesn't look like they're going to let it go.
Yep. That's Mountain Drake going on down. They're kind of just taking everything. Cloud Soul, because it is, of course, T1. They are the most trustworthy team in the LCK when it comes to getting Cloud Souls. It's absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love it. And here towards the top side, let's have a look once again. As Doran was just tracking the doggo and then finds it.
I think he knows which camps are up. That must have been communicated, because otherwise, why would you chase in a Fury? She just walks to the top safely. He's probably just going, all right, Sponge is low, but he still wants to clear his camps before he backs. I'm going to catch him greeting. And he played it super well.
Yeah. And didn't even say anything there.
No.
Ice cold there from Doran. Eyes on the prize. As T1 looking to start off this Rift Herald. Let's see whether DRX can find themselves an angle. There is Faker getting engaged on. The equalizer is down, and I think he is going to be dead. The rest of T1 now trying to escape as the Featherstorm going to get the flash out as well. Gumayusi
Blast Cone
uses all of his utility, and there is Yukal with the engage. Guma goes down after Owner. That's a lot of shutdown opportunities, and now Keria, nowhere to go, has a cask. So that might buy him some space, but the rest of them are just going to be killing Rich. These stuns from the Annie set up really, really nicely, especially in this moment.
Yeah, it's so hard to get away from this Annie when you end up losing a fight like this. And I was saying before, if DRX fall too far behind, when they do those combos, they look for the dive and somebody doesn't die, like your initial target doesn't die, you're like, uh-oh, well, our comp isn't working anymore. Phaedra has the shield here, survives for a really long time, but still ultimately dies. There's no one to peel. This time around, T1 aren't set up. This time around, there's no way for Owner to actually keep his carry alive, and the chase comes through. I thought they were going to blast cone over, but they played it a little bit more measured. Ando goes in first, and then it's just stun after stun here from UCal. Got another one prepped here. And he's just like, all right, well, we're just going to keep pressing buttons, and you can't get away. This turret's not going to keep you safe. At least Keria survives, but otherwise, 4 kills here across DRX. And the game that started to feel like they were just going to get pushed out of, they fight back.
Yeah, they found a huge angle there. It's only 1,000 gold now, the difference. And yes, there's some feats of strength. There's a couple of Drakes. This is, like, still a rough game state for DRX to deal with. But this is what we wanted to see out of this composition. I think it's a little bit later than what I was expecting, but better late than never, absolutely. And so we do get to see that mid-game power.
You know, if there was a slogan for Eastside, it would probably be something like, let's press R together, you know? I can see it at, like, the Eastside Clubhouse, you know?
Yep, that's on the wall, right underneath the fish, you know? Yep.
And, I mean, it's just as simple as that, as Rich may be in trouble.
I've seen this play from Doran before, as, yeah, Rich is definitely in trouble. There isn't a teleport to come on through here, and Doran is teleporting away.
Teleport
so
trade.
1-for-1 for the teleports. There we go.
Rich does have his own, so Faker's not going to be able to cross-map alone.
Bit of a combo comes on through there. Deadly Flourish is decent. Party cast there from the Gragas as Gumayushi's going forward, but he actually eats the bad end of that trade. Lazy Feel able to dish out a fair bit as well. DRX are not out of this game yet.
Certainly not. And what looked like a very aggressive win for Doran on the top side does kind of end up fizzling out. And they end up stabilizing that bottom fight, but it's not the fight they were looking for. Still, the issue of scaling is there, right? The Jace is still 600 gold ahead, the Victor's still 900 gold ahead, and they're both sitting on 2 items, and they're both going to continue to scale into this game. So DRX need to basically fight every objective from now on, starting with this Dragon. Cannot give it up. Otacon's on the bottom side of the map as well. It's going to be a big prize for them potentially as well, if they can pick it up or at least force a fight over it. As this comp isn't getting, it's not aging like wine, let's just say.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not terrible scaling or anything like that, but I would 100% agree with you, just because you're staring down the barrel of Vic Desire, which can make things very, very...
Yeah, it just doesn't scale as well.
Yeah. There is certainly a difference in scaling options for both teams.
I mean, the let's press R together of it still works really well in the late game.
You can always press R together.
It's just that when the champions don't die when you press R together, that you're like, I pressed R, it's on cooldown, I don't know.
That's okay. Gumayushi throwing feathers around, Carrier's throwing barrels around.
Lane setup here good for DRX. They have Rich in the top lane. He can TP down for the fight. He's got his equalizer back. Lazy Feel and Rich both have flash, so this fight is definitely one DRX absolutely have to play for. Cannot just simply give this Dragon up.
Yep. Carrier take some poke here as the daggers do come in. Banana Brush control for both teams right now.
Rich could get a turret before he comes, but he's going to come down right now, in fact.
Lazy Feel, pretty aggressive positioning here, as I would be a little careful. Carrier comes in and reminds him exactly why, but they're going to try and turn it. Andil goes in. He is traded. Actually, he doesn't even go down. The curtains have now been called. And Gumayushi, you better dance. And he doesn't get out of the last couple. Ona puts up the wall. But I think DRX have pushed them away from this Dragon now and might be able to grab their first of the game.
Really nice flash there from Lazy Feel. He played the fight really well there. His ult was well angled too. Rich on the chase there, forcing Guma's ult out, and that's a Dragon here for DRX. They get the kill on Keria as well. I think ideally they would have liked more kills on top of it, but I think they'll definitely take the prize. The top turret did go down anyways after Rich left. But now Lazy Feel, no cleanse, no flash.
Lazy Feel, you're not allowed to farm the mid lane. We've spoken about this already. There's Andil looking for a bit of an angle here, but Sponge going in. Rich turns up as well. Now the real damage gets in there. As over the wall goes the doggo. And thankfully they're going to be okay, as there is the pulverize onto 2. Doran burning down, and UCal collects the kill. Tibbers is going to lie down, but I think that is absolutely fine. You did your job, big old bear.
Yeah. Is it the bear in the bush is worth 2 in the kill feed? Is that the
I think that's the saying. I think that's the saying. It's kind of an old-fashioned one.
Going in here. Doesn't have his ult yet. If he had his ult, I think there's a real angle. But he does not, so I think it's just going to be that trade of kills. At least they got something back, though. It looked like a big mistake from LazyField, which frankly I think it was salvaged a little bit there by DRX. So another trade of kills, still only 1,000 gold. The difference between these two squads, as you watch it again here, we're going back a little bit further. This is the big fight win here as LazyField cleanses the stun, then flashes away. Perfect angle on that one, and the Rumble does so much damage here. Guma has to ult, doesn't really want to, wants to help turn this fight around when Doran shows up, but they win the fight without Doran, so he just has to leave. At least he leaves with his life. What a well-played fight. And then this is just greed. Bit of a lazy feel from me, in fact, in terms of the diligence done on farming this wave.
I think that's where the vibes were at.
Yeah, they turn it around because Rich is still here. They show up. They get Faker's teleport as well. And then we get a little bit too excited on the T1 side. Not respecting Andel, not respecting UCal. And the bear comes down.
Yeah, bit of a flash Tibbers. You absolutely love to see it. And 2-0-3 for this Annie as well. I feel like UCal hasn't been having a jumping out of his chair type performance so far, but has slowly and steadily just stayed in it. He's looking real good on the Annie right now. 2.5 items now completed, Shadow Flame and that Malignance already done, giving him a lot of firepower on 2 items.
Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of vibing. Like, when we saw Vikla play it yesterday, you know, he got them some big wins in the early game, but wasn't able to really pilot it outside of that later on, despite the win. But I feel like it's been pretty consistent here from UCal, how he's playing it, found so many different angles, is getting stronger and stronger. Shadow Flame, ton of extra damage he's going to have.
Yep. I mean, the idea with Annie is to, like, use all of your buttons as often as possible, and you die first so that Tibbers goes nuts.
Yeah.
That's the plan. So having 0 numbers in the middle there is not necessarily utilizing the entirety of Annie's kit. It's like playing Cogmore and not suiciding.
Well, with the buffs to Tibbers and having the extra magic pen just flat added to the kit really helps Annie's longevity and her team fight power, because otherwise she is just kind of a stun bot, but does a lot of damage right now on this patch. So
yeah, and I was being facetious,
of course,
gentlemen. That is not how it's supposed to work.
But it can work that way, and
theoretically, yeah, it can certainly give you a little bit of a it could be worse type scenario. As this turret, not long for the world, Gumishi able to walk up and take that one down without too much of an answer. I think one turret has been taken by DRX as well as Game Wolf, so a bit of standing gold on the map.
I think with nothing to protect or fight for topside, it was just the right play to group as 5 and look for that turret. Really no downside to it at all whatsoever, especially with no one on DRX threatening that bottom turret, which is still some standing gold they could pick up. So big win here for T1. LazyField is not afraid of Guma or the fact that Pantheon has his R button, but I think he should be a little bit more afraid of it.
Yeah, there are 2 deaths on LazyField right now, and both of them were from standing in mid lane, so I would be a little bit frightened. But he is not going to let it deter him.
He's got his Summoners back up now, so
there we go.
At least a little bit less risky to make decisions like that, but I think he probably wants to keep those Summoner spells. Now the Xayah is really big, and wasn't really allowed to fight the last few big skirmishes, but I think, you know, a real 5v5 group up where T1 are actually playing as a 5-man unit instead of, like, you know, Faker can't teleport or, you know, there's an Annie in the bush. I think the Xayah is going to do big numbers in this next fight. Same with the Victor that does have an arm guard, so Faker will have an extra life here, so to speak.
Ooh, this is looking a little scary, potentially, as Sponge hit that flip over the wall. It is otherwise going to be okay. Gumishi continuing to farm here in this mid lane. 3 items almost done. Yeah, like you were saying, this Xayah is really going to be a problem.
Yeah, IE just got picked up here for...
Oh, that is huge.
So that's big for this fight. Like, once again, this is another fight DRX absolutely need to take. And it's really critical. The arm guard picked up here for Faker. Doran has his 3rd item locked in now as well. Like, this is a big fight.
Yeah, and this is big lethality on the Jace as well. These shock blasts going to really hurt us. That's just Chain CC, and yes, he manages to go up into the Featherstorm, and that just doesn't really do anything. So Gumiushi just caught in mid lane. A little bit of what LazyField was experiencing is going to go over his side, and now DRX moving towards the Baron. And T1, 4 versus 5, they're going to have to go for this. I don't think they can give this up.
I don't think they can. It's going to be a really hard fight. Doran needs to hit a big shock blast, but he can't hit what he can't see. Might just have to toss it in, and he does. Hit Sponge.
Yeah, Sponge not going to be too worried about it as UCal on a flank angle. And Tibbers is just being really frustrating. There's the equalizer as DRX look for the turn. The curtain call unanswerable right now, but the bullets aren't really landing. And Rich also getting attacked poked by the Baron. He's out of there. Andel's also going to be taken down at T1. They answer the fight really nicely. Now they're looking for even more, but should they? Is the question. Owner says absolutely we should. As in goes Sponge and out he goes via the Death Chamber. As LazyField wanting to offer some damage back, putting some miles into the Infinity Edge that he picked up as he gets a big old shield, and Owner just going to be able to dance forward. Stun comes down, Faker finishes off the Jhin as Doran moving on over. Yukal almost in range, doesn't have flash though. As T1, DRX thought that they had an opportunity. They killed Gumayusi and things looked great, and then they bit off a little more than they could chew.
I don't know if they necessarily needed to start Baron there, but critically, like, Yukal didn't use his ult on the kill on Guma in mid, as Guma's now first to respawn, is going to go over here and take the dragon by himself. So they just do this with a flash stun. He actually does commit his ultimate here. He had it back up, so I was wrong about that. My apologies, everyone. But he had his ult back up. He was sitting on the flank, and look at this setup for Yukal on the side here. They just want to deny Owner entry, but Andil and Rich make the call to look for a fight at the same time while Yukal is just guarding the Pantheon. I think this is where the fight really goes wrong, because you could either commit to the fight on the bottom side and not try to deny the Pantheon entry, or just deny the entry, play slow, and don't engage as the Alistar and burn the Baron and force them to come to you. They tried to kind of do everything at once there. Hold the Baron aggro, and hold the flank, and win the fight. And T1 will punish you every time, and that is just great mechanics here from Faker and Owner on the follow-up here. LazyField and Yukal also play this very well. Owner getting a little bit greedy here, trying to use his shield to buy the time necessary to grab that kill, but still, trade up for T1, a denial of the Baron, and now back 3,000 gold in the lead.
Yeah, it's not a game-ending lead, but I think it feels right now like at any moment, if DRX lose more than 2 people, it's going to be game over. Whereas DRX, I think, have a couple more team fights to win before they have any meaningful advantage in this game. Puts T1 in a fantastic position as Carrier goes for it once again. Cast just going to knock Rich into the wall, and there's nothing he could do. He gets the equalizer off, but that is all we can really say about that. Unbreakable Will now on cooldown for Andil, but he still gets taken down halfway, and this is what I was talking about. T1 now just able to get picks, translate that into full map control, and DRX are just going to fall further and further behind. And a bunch of extra stats now as this Thornbound Archon is also going to be taken.
If they all walked into Yukal where he had his Tibbers stun prepped, you know, maybe there's a world where that goes awry, but once they got a few kills and they were like, Yukal's missing, he can't come to us, we have control vision on all the entry points, we could just do Archon. It's a freebie. So you could just see how easy it is for T1 to collapse when DRX aren't fully set up. And they need to be the ones starting the fights off, setting up their CC with a Jhin following up from a different angle. When they're not the ones who are dictating the pace, it's really easy for T1 to kind of pick them apart piece by piece and take these objectives off the map. Now they have Archon, they have Cloud Soul Point. Guma picked that one up earlier after the Baron denial, and they've got their eyes set on Baron itself, at least in terms of vision here. DRX had some really big plays in this one. They're going to need a miracle now to get back in.
I would agree. There is a very cool hat on the Annie.
I mean, the Annie is like 2-0-5, almost has a full set of Dark Seal, Death Cap. I mean, if he could hit a big stun or the fight goes longer.
Well, Owner's going to go in. This might be a bridge too far, as Sponge not going to get pushed away by that. Cask and Andil is just holding them in place. Can Owner get over the wall? That's the question. As Gumayusi says, it does not matter. He can go where he wants because I am massive, and he absolutely is. There's the double kill for the Xayah. And Gumayusi, I think, is a little upset that he died a million times in the early stages of this game and is going to finally get his revenge.
Yeah, he did scale very well in this game, even though he was caught and focused so much in this game. There's a lot of CC, there's a lot of explosive damage here on DRX's comp, so he only gets to press R once, but in this situation didn't need to press it at all, as they were in full control, as Owner tanked a bunch of damage, and then they won the fight. That's kind of how T1 has been winning a lot of their series this season, hasn't it? It's been Atlas. Whether it's a Xin Zhao pressing an R, or Pantheon putting up a shield, that is going to be a Baron here for T1.
Oh, Doran just walks from behind LazyField's tower. Thankfully, he's got some Cloud Rift to try and utilize, and Doran, I don't think he's going to be too worried about that one. Never mind, they're not going to dive. Andil had just turned up, so LazyField will survive. Is it an overextension? That's the question, and the answer is no. Let's have a look at this fight one more time.
It looks
as this
like
was once, this is exactly what I was talking about. T1 kills 3 people, game's kind of over.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Owner, is he really in danger? The Faker is just so tanky at this point in the game. Like, he's just so big. He's level 17. He is Victor. It's difficult to burst down in situations like this. So he's just on the flank, and then the collapse is there. Guma's huge, and he just gets to clean up. Faker denies anyone else from following up, and, you know, focusing a Pantheon, the only option DRX had, but it wasn't going to be successful. Is now Owner's level 18.
Yeah, that's a 3-level lead. This Doggo not looking too hot right now. Although it is a hot dog, so it's a bit weird. Probably should be at least warm.
More like a chili dog right now.
Yeah, definitely chilly. That's okay. LazyField, can he protect that? Oh dear. Yukal not going to quite find the Tibbers angle. Kind of tells the story of this series a little bit as Grand Starfall comes in. Decent cap jack there from LazyField. I don't think it's going to save his life. His spear will be avoided, and so maybe Owner is not going to be able to get that one done. Still, he survives, and they take down Rich as well. And DRX just a little too far behind, ladies and gentlemen. T1, they've scaled into this game, and they are going to utilize that to take down this Nexus here in game number 1. LazyField just going to have to dance away from some of these skill shots as he watches his Nexus explode, and I don't even think he's going to be able to do that because Carrier decides that he's worth killing. Let's do it. T1 take down the Nexus, and we'll end game number 1, and it looked like another day in the office here for the squad.
Yeah, I mean, it's just better team fights, better objective control. Even though there were some really cool angles, some nice punishes from DRX, they were able to punish a lot of Carrier's engages, they were able to catch Guma a few times. It's just the power of Owner, man. Yeah. He goes where he wants, he's unkillable. You put him on these champions where he cannot take damage, and he will go where he pleases, and the rest of T1 will follow him and actually get the kills as he just absorbs all of the pressure. The guy is just on another level right now, and sure, they left open the Pantheon. Now it's Fearless ban, but I still think you got to keep banning the Vi. You got to keep banning the Xin Zhao. Not allowed to have those picks. I think for DRX, you shouldn't be too unhappy with how this game went. I think there's a lot to clean up in terms of how Rich was playing the side lanes, how LazyField was being extremely greedy in mid. But coordination was there, and I feel like for a lot of this year, we haven't been able to say that about DRX. And you brought T1 to a close game. You kept it pretty even through the mid game. So I think you probably should hold your head high after this loss. But T1, they're looking for that streak. They're looking to go 2-0 this week, and it looks like you said, business as usual for a very T1 Game 1 Blue Side draft.
Oh, 100%. And it felt very comfortable as the game got later and later. Victor and the Xayah got online. And unfortunately, even though it was a cool draft from DRX, you understood how it was supposed to work, it didn't. We're going to go to a short break. When we get back, the Space going to break that one down, then we'll have game number 2. We'll see you soon.
엎드기 필.
미대니?
엔딩 오플, 엔딩 오플.
나 지금 뒤에 꽂았어. 뒤에 꽂았어.
림본.
우리
앞라인 볼게.
야 우리
엔딩 오플 노공이야.
어씨 나 죽었다. 괜찮아? 나 살았다. 맞아줘. 애니 마무리 됐어? 맞아줘. 맞아줘야 돼? 맞으라고. 맞으라니. 이 사람 풀은? 아씨 빵탄 순간 이거 봐요. 넣었어 노플. 토스 해줄게. 이거 차 깨봐 일단. 해봐. 더블 이슈. 간다. 한 번만 됐어.
That was the game 1 T1 draft, blue side, you know, kind of an evergreen T1 composition that always works. We'll see if things get a little bit rougher now. If, for example, DRX ban Azir, try to look for the first pick Taliyah. We'll see if T1 ban the Taliyah away. Things kind of get a little bit murky.
I think
or T1.
I think banning Xin Zhao is still a worthwhile prospect.
Yeah, unless Sponge is going to first pick it, which would make sense, I suppose. But if you let Owner have it, I might let DRX have it, if you know what I mean.
yeah. There's a bit of a danger here, as the Vi is going to be banned away, so now it feels safer to ban the Xin if you'd like to. See whether DRX do feel like it, because it could otherwise be a look towards Gumyushi's champion pool. You could just ban Varus and try and pick something a little bit better for Lazy Feel. I feel like his Jhin was utterly forgettable in game number 1, sadly.
Yeah.
And so they are going to go on that tack instead, with a lot of Gumyushi's champions now taken away, because Jhin and Xayah are 2 of his favorites.
This is such a Taliyah first pick angle, I feel like.
Oh,
the Xin Zhao got banned by T1. They could have looked. I thought T1 was going to ban something else and say, okay, you get Taliyah, we get Xin Zhao, we like this. Or you get Xin Zhao, we get Taliyah. So I think this one is pretty like non-negotiable. That makes a lot of sense. But let's see what T1 are able to get here in return. As you know, there's no Vi here, there's no Xin Zhao. Maybe we'll see Faker look towards the Ahri pick, for example, one that he's gone to when a lot of those other picks are taken away, especially if the series goes deeper.
Yep, especially into Taliyah, we see a lot of our LCK mids opting in for the Ahri matchup.
For me, I'm more curious about what Guma's going to play.
Yeah.
Because we've seen him go to the Lucian, for example. We've seen when the champion pool gets thinned out, the Varus is gone, the Xayah is gone. He doesn't play Ezreal, he doesn't play Zeri, right? Nocturne for Owner does feel very Owner here in this draft. I thought perhaps he'd be looking towards a Viego instead, but wouldn't be picking it this early. But he wants to pick this one up here. Has some decent synergy with the Ahri, and is another champion that can impact the map globally, just like the Pantheon. So it's a great way to play your win cons, but looks like they're going to instead take the MF for Guma.
MF for Guma is not what I was expecting either. I kind of thought that we'd see like an R3 Lucian type angle after Lazy Feel picks up an Ezreal or something like that. But instead, it is the Misfortune, which we've seen have some positive performances and some negative ones.
What I really do not want to see is Kai'Sa into Misfortune. We've seen that tried so many times, and it is not really working. And they're going to go for the Ezreal instead. Lazy Feel has impressed us in some of his Ezreal games with really good team fighting, really good positioning, aggressive plays. Kind of like Diablo, kind of like Smash. Some of our younger AD carries really like to play this pick very aggressively, and has played a ton in Challengers, of course, so they have a ton of experience on it. What's the jungle pick going to be here? Could be Sponge on Viego, but instead, just going to look for the Leona really early in this draft.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Of course, Leona is often picked into Misfortune. You can interrupt the ultimate, things like that. Like, we've seen that, but picking a support this early is a little dangerous, especially when you're handing over counter pick opportunity to Carrier when there is still 1 pick left up and available.
Yeah, looks like they're still going to go for this Nocturne pick.
Okay.
Andel has played a lot of Leona. I feel like it's a pick he's very comfortable on, and perhaps that plus the fact that it's good into the MF and okay into the Rel is part of why they grabbed it. I think they'll ban the Rel now that the Nocturne's been picked up instead.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's support bans on DRX's side, and I was thinking jungle bans for T1, but instead they're going to focus out Rich. Of course, Rich did like to gravitate towards the Ambessa, definitely earlier in the season at least.
It's very good into Misfortune as well, especially when you don't have a tank jungler. Just really easy to get on top of her, whether with your ult or just by dashing several times to close that gap, while the Misfortune is very immobile. So I do like that ban, but I do think something like a Viego ban makes sense here. Because you look for the pick with Leona, Taliyah, Viego gets that kill, you get the reset. That kind of fight seems pretty obvious here for the side of DRX. Although Viego's been very polarizing a pick. The Wukong, similar situation, obviously not with the resets, but the follow-up to that single target is very, very strong. Great into Misfortune as well.
I think it's a really smart ban, actually. I think Wukong would be kind of devastating if DRX are able to get their hands on it. There's the Rel that you were talking about, so the couple of support bans for DRX, they do get rid of these.
It's going to get a little bit weird. I think you just have to play Nautilus here.
Yep.
And luckily, because this Leona was so face up, they could grab it early. Considering a Bard, and even potentially, I mean, this pick is so strong into Leona, but I think the Nautilus is the safest one, especially into Ezreal. You can guarantee you get that big hit, that CC onto the Ezreal no matter what, even if he shifts away.
Yeah.
I think the Elise is better for lane control, and I really am not a big fan of blind Elise, but I felt like in this scenario, especially when you have the Ahri, and the Nocturne. It was a cool idea, but Nautilus much safer, much more robust.
Yeah, does now mean that Doran can kind of play anything as well because you have Engage coming out of the bottom side of the map. I think what they were thinking about was like, oh, well, we'll just put Doran on Ornn or Sion or something like that. But then maybe he's not going to have the greatest of matchups if he does want to do that. So there's the Viego that you were talking about. I'm worried about the Paperman. I feel like Viego hasn't found too many inroads so far.
Call me crazy, but this was not what I was going to say. I was going to say, I feel like Cassante kind of goes hard here for DRX.
I mean, Rich has been pretty amazing on his Sion. From the other victories that we've seen from DRX, a lot of it has been to do with this guy's Sion, as the answer from Doran will be this Camille. Camille Nocturne, pretty powerful, right? You can play out these 1-3-1s pretty devastatingly.
It's great
in side lanes. Yeah, exactly right.
And I do think that in the past, I would have, in any other team Doran was in, by the way, I would have been like, I don't know if you could trust Doran to be the guy to punish the weak side Sion / Ornn / any sort of weak side safe pick it's really difficult to punish, but he has been so much better about it overall this season and this year. He's moved into T1. He's picking up, I think he's trying to pick up some of the slack in replacing Zeus, right? And trying to be a little bit of what Zeus is, even though it's hard for anybody in the world across all regions to be close to what Zeus is. Camille has been a pick that we've seen very polarizing for Doran in the past. One of those picks he's been drafted in Gen G, for example, is time on DRX, it's time on Hanwha, where sometimes Doran gets those big wins, but oftentimes it backfires. I think now we can trust, at least I can. I think I'm ready to trust Doran to play the Camille into the Sion, to generate the leads required, and to lock down in engages and team fights where Doran has always been at his best. The Ezreal composition that they've drafted here. Could even look for Talia picks. I do like this. I think that's why Sion, to me, is such a risky pick in a lot of these drafts, because it just puts a hole in the top side of the map.
Yeah, it can happen. Rich did show us that sometimes it's not a hole. Sometimes it is just so much health that you cannot get through it. And we'll see whether DRX can channel some of that, or whether T1 just once again are going to look better. Let's dive into the Rift.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the Rift for game number 2 of DRX versus T1. And I do want to address a cute little fan sign as well that was up there before. I didn't read the whole thing because, of course, my Korean is not fantastic, but it basically said, sorry, Mom and Dad, but I had to go and watch T1 on Parents' Day, which was very, very cute. Happy Parents' Day to all of the parents out there. I need to send my mom a message. I kind of forgot.
Mother's Day and Father's Day haven't happened yet. For the US times, at least.
Yeah, for Australia, Mother's Day is in 4 days. So it's on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's the same in the US.
Is it really?
I'm pretty sure.
I always thought that they were a bit different. Or is it like Father's Day is different, but Mother's Day is the same? As now Faker could be in a little bit of trouble here, as some rocks are being flung at him. Carrier moves over. Gumushi's here as well, and the flash has to come out. The Ignite was traded for it, as Carrier also taking a little bit of damage. And already, DRX finding some angles.
Well, this is really rough for Faker, even though he lives, he doesn't have flash, and now Yukal has a huge health advantage, and he's just going to start throwing rocks. Although most of those didn't hit. But he is going to try to trade aggressively and look for level 2 first and try to put the pressure onto Faker. So it's a big win here at level 1 for DRX.
Yeah. Yukal is going to miss a bit of this farm. The greatest, and Owner is going to come on over for a very aggressive invade.
Yeah, looking to potentially set up some vertical jungling. Also has that ward, so knows exactly where Sponge is on his pathing, which is the normal Raptor start into the red buff.
Yeah, it's like Raptor Krugs red. It's interesting.
Yeah, he did go Krugs first for some reason. And by the way, we'll clear his bottom side, but if he doesn't suss this out, he'll be in trouble. It was a ward on the Raptors, so that doesn't tell him guaranteed, but he might have some sort of idea depending on how Owner left the pit, but he probably pathed very well. Just going to go down and get his Wolves, which is going to, not be the first sign, but after the Wolves, he will know, oh, okay, some of my jungle has been taken. Nice little start here, despite, the lead in mid for DRX. He still gets away with it.
Yeah, you can see pings onto exactly where Sponge is. He gets the bad news. I think there was a ward in the Raptor pit of T1.
Yeah, there was.
Well. So I think that they should have probably known.
Owner could have, I don't know exactly how
Owner
he
may have
could have
faked.
walked. Yeah, he could have walked a weird way to make it look like he was going to do his normal red buff clear and then just went around.
Well, speaking of having a look for him, Sponge is going to move on over. His hook is going to connect here by Carrier. Good exchange onto Lazyfield. Make it rain, also making things tough. But Andil, he's still going in. The Eclipse proc actually doing a fair bit of work there as Owner wanting to go aggressive. Doesn't get the attack speed from the spell shield because Sponge missed. But him and Yukao still wanting to go aggressive. And this ward actually very high value as Sponge just steals away the blue. So answers Owner's aggression. Carrier not quite able to get up there in time as Andil and Lazyfield also moving in. The coordination from DRX looking a little better in this game.
Yeah, just really great coordination in the early game, looking for the level 1 into Faker, scouting out, albeit slowly, the steal in the jungle, going straight cross-map to Owner's jungle, having the burst with the Q-Smite there for Sponge, protecting him to allow that play to happen.
Oh, Doran going in, on to Rich here. This Camille, kind of deadly, doesn't have a lot of mana. And Rich is still just going to go back home.
Yeah, you know, Doran is such a fitting name because he either is Doran's Blade or he's Doran's Shield in the top lane, right? And I feel like the game has been telling me for so long that you should only buy Doran's Shield. But recently, I've been seeing the Doran Blade pop up. I've been seeing him be a little bit more aggressive. I'm finding some success. He had a great time last game around.
I love that the irony is that he bought a Doran Shield.
Yeah.
In this game as well.
I know, but now he's got a Sheen.
Yeah, that's looking a little bit more bladey. As Yukao will get charmed. Does pick up this wave though, as Faker will be going back home and actually navigated the lane just fine. Of course, Yukao sitting on a couple of biscuits and a couple of potions. Biscuits not necessarily as crazy as they used to be, but still going to be feeling okay as far as sustain is concerned. And Faker now able to teleport back in. Refillable potion refilled is what you want to see. Or is it just filled because it's like the first time that he's brought it back?
I think it's still refillable. Right?
Yeah.
Because even though it's
But he didn't
full,
fill it when he went back. He bought it.
Yeah, but it can be refilled, so I still think it's refillable.
Does Boris refill it for you before he gives it to you? Like, is it sort of like a...
I think it's
like if you get a bottle of water at a restaurant?
I think it's sealed on purchase. The Sponge is up here, but can't do anything. So yeah, back to, oh, hold up.
Yeah, Yukao not going to get hit by the Dustbringer as Seismic Shove comes through, but the Charm was in the air, and Yukao just walks towards Faker and dies.
Yeah, that looked very funny. It almost looked like the Charm just had an insanely long duration, but it was Charm into Fear.
Yeah, and also he got feared with Phase Rush procced, and so he walked very, very far.
Yeah, that's very funny. He could have flashed the Charm, but thought his Seismic Shove would be enough to buy the space he needed there. And considering Faker already had his flash down, I do feel like you could flash that and be totally fine.
Yep.
Decided not to. Played it greedy. Sponge is going to come over here and potentially challenge this Drake, but with no mid-prior, the wave crashing, I don't think this is realistic.
Well, there's a bit of a battle towards the bottom side as Carrier going down very, very low. Faker thinking about moving on over to defend that one. There's level 5s for both of our junglers. Yukao will be able to skate his way over here. The Dragon is down low. It will be a smite fight, won by Owner for now, as he'll have to flash to get himself out of the way. But Andil, he's going to follow him. The Weaver's Wall comes in, and they all pile in on top of the Nocturne. And he will be seismically shoved into the Death Chamber. Faker now moving back towards mid, and DRX will be able to try and find some of the spoils as Sponge transforming into Owner will be able to take his Gromp.
These are the Andil games, you know, where you're like, oh, I see the angles. I see why this guy got his starting position back, because they're looking for more here now into the bottom lane.
Oh dear, there's a flash immediately by Gumayushi actually, as Carrier is the one that's going down very low. Andil able to get himself out of there, but Sponge is just dead, and that was a whoopsie.
I mean, trying to dive Nautilus can be very difficult, as we know. And as DRX were reminded,
DRX really are a 1 foot forward, 1 foot back type team, are they not?
Yeah, it's very often. I did really like the Dragon play, though.
Yeah, you see, like that was great, and then they go and just run underneath the outer turret. And so that was the not great. And so now we're back on the great side of it.
It's really funny that, funny, sad, whatever, it's interesting, let's say, that I feel like DRX's more coordinated shot calling seems to be a double-edged sword in some of these situations. Like, the Baron call last game where they had things set up too well to try to do everything they thought. They're like, oh, okay, we can both do the Baron and win the team fight and block owner out, and then they died there because they're so confident they can do it. In this case, like, oh, we're so ready to win this dragon fight, and then, oh my god, we can actually coordinate this dive down here in the bottom lane as well. When could have just been happy with the dive and maybe zoning away the bottom duo instead. Sponge is going to be able to take this first grub without using Smite.
Yeah, so grabs that one. Carrier just going to stun up Arndil just for a moment as he's pulling him back in, being a little bit frustrating, and Andal going aggressive. Doran moving over as Rich trying to defend, but the Q finds absolutely no one, and Andal is just dead. Can they get anything in response? That's the question, as Seismic Shove will connect onto Gumayusi, and Rich, he's going to survive. They're looking a little worse for wear. Teleport has just come back up, though, as the Grubs move back into the pit. Lazyfield positioned here in this mid lane, but I don't think they're going to be able to defend as these Grubs are taken by T1. They should be able to get two of them, as never mind.
I don't know if they should, but they're going to.
Yep, Carrier sitting in this brush here. True Shot Barrage not going to hit anyone, and there are both of those Grubs going down. In goes the Scion as he's trying to get rid of Gumayusi, and that is an engage onto Lazyfield if ever I've seen one. He just evaporates. Andal going aggressive, and Yukal trying to find a few windows as there's the flash in from Doran. Hextech ultimatum onto Sponge, but now he's just in the Thunderdome by himself. T1 kind of playing it well, being able to take one of them, but they lose their AD carry as well. And finally, they're able to take down Sponge. Rich now coming on in. He's now joining the rest of T1. These health bars are so low, but nothing's landing from DRX. They can't get any of the kills.
They don't have enough damage here. Without Lazyfield, I just don't think you can win that longer skirmish. Ends up being a trade, but a trade up for T1 again. Now 2,000 gold ahead in this game. Faker sitting on 3 kills and 6 stacks of Dark Seal.
It looked like the idea from DRX in some of these moments was good, but I guess losing Andil here was unnecessary.
Well, Faker can also keep Lazyfield out of the initial part of the fight.
Oh no, Mystic Shot going wide is a disaster, and Gumayusi walks up to him and shoots him. Oh dear.
Well, this was unfortunately becoming a bit of a trend in this series. Not the upward trend, not the good trend. A trend you would like to avoid, as in this case, just a straight up 1v1.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think in challengers you don't necessarily get punished as hard in moments like this, especially with the stuff we were seeing from Jin. We just don't see that level of coordination, the punish plays coming through from T1. Here, don't you dare. Don't you dare shift in!
Well, he sidesteps, but then that Mystic Shot missing, I don't even think would have mattered.
Yeah, he didn't have flash, so Guma's like, well, I channeled this on you. And you shifted in, so you can't get out.
That was a little unfortunate.
We kind of knew before we saw the replay that one was going to transpire.
Yeah, we saw the real thing at the end there, and so was comfortable to surmise. Not comfortable to watch again as that max range hook, just gorgeous. Down goes Mr. Sponge. He couldn't even flash or ult or anything. He was just dead.
Is it a bit of a jungle gap series? Like every single T1 series recently?
Yeah,
Owner just kind of runs the rift, and Faker and Owner play well together, and T1 just win the game?
It's looking a little like that. However, I would probably put a little bit more responsibility towards DRX and the way that they've been kind of playing this one out, because it feels a little bit like after that first skirmish was lost, DRX have been, I guess, playing a little less measured.
It's just, I really feel that the confidence with which DRX are playing with is so much better than it has been. But sometimes it's okay to be a little bit nervous about making some decisions.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, there's a difference between confidence and recklessness.
Yeah, there's starting to give me some like 2022 Live Sandbox feels right now with only go in, only fight, and force every fight, and also try to greed in every lane.
And honestly, it's kind of weird because it makes me think about 2022 DRX.
Yeah, there's also that.
In the times where they weren't winning Worlds, the times where they were losing every game in the LCK. And it was kind of flipped extraordinarily early, and it had oftentimes someone playing Viego in the jungle as well. And that has continued to be a little bit of a problem here. Solar Flare will be able to lock down Faker. Seismic Shove is some nice chain CC. There we go. Here's the uptick from the DRX. And now, let's see whether the down tick is happening immediately. The flash hook, not going to quite find the mark, but I don't think they're out of the woods just yet as, oh god, Depth charge going to come on through as Yukal's in trouble. Does have to flash and does do so, but the double up almost murders both of them. Does manage to get the kill on Yukal, and there we go. The ebbs and flows of DRX, ladies and gentlemen. They get a kill onto Faker, and then they lose 2.
Yeah, well, it's the traditional Faker dies, but then you win the fight style. Is over here, unstoppable
Rain is
until
hit the wall.
Yeah, there's a stoppable moment there.
A little stoppable.
Slightly stoppable.
I think Faker is pretty charming, and he is going to prove that as Rich just going to get taken out. The Zombie Scion going to see what he can do about this wave, and Gumayusi down towards the bottom side. This is really gone out of control at a very, very brisk pace.
Yeah, the train is off the rails, and the train on Scion was stopped, actually, in fact, on the rails. Faker initially went away from it because he was like, I know they're going to dive me, but then he called to his teammates, okay, we have the faster rotation. We have Nocturne. We have Nocturne ult. So I'm actually going to stay here and bait them into this. I don't think T1 got as much out of this as they thought they were going to. I think they thought they were going to kill 3, but they end up still having a huge win here, and Guma gets the double up and end up taking out Andil on the exchange. Keria, not sure if he really wanted that dredge line to connect, but over here, once again, just, you know, teleport advantage. Yeah. Faker shows up, Rich is trading, kind of forgot about that teleport, and tries to run away, but is stopped. And
yeah, kind of forgot about the Hextech ultimatum as well, I think.
Yeah.
But Faker literally just respawned, and to get back out onto the map, he heads into the top lane and gets a kill onto the Scion. That is pretty efficient pathing here from the mid laner.
He is very ahead on the Ahri.
Yes.
And he's looking for his second item pretty soon here. The gold lead is starting to kind of multiplicatively increase. It's starting to exponentially grow. It's starting to be a...
It's going big.
It's going big, yeah. And last time it went a little bit big, and then there were some mistakes from T1.
Yeah.
Not sure if that's going to happen this time.
Yeah, this is going big much, much faster. You're exactly right. I think I probably could use some of your fancy words to describe it, but I think going big is really telling the story here.
You don't want to go small with the gold lead. You want to go big.
No.
T1 mastered that years ago.
And I just don't want to go too big on the words that I'm using to describe how big it is. I think just big is enough. As Doran is going to go in onto Rich here. I don't know what I was talking about there. As okay, Faker not going to get shoved. And there is the paranoia. Down goes Yukal. And DRX, it's just really feeling like they're looking a little lifeless here in this game.
It's just hard when you're behind into this comp because Nocturne can be everywhere. Ahri can follow up so quickly. And now trying to even contest for this Herald feels like a pipe dream.
Yeah, Laserfield going to get engaged on here as he does cleanse. Tries to get out, depth charge following him there, but he invests the flash to try and keep himself alive. Sponge standing on so much vision as they do get rid of the Rift Herald. Dredge line goes wide, so does the Charm. T1, they're happy with what they got though, as Doran just really starting to run away with this side lane. That was sort of going to be an inevitability here towards this bottom side. But
I mean, they didn't have any control over the objective. They wanted to try to maybe see if T1 was going to make a mistake, fight into them. But Trinity Force versus a... Speaking of going big, Guma's got the big F sword in his inventory, and he was ready to fight that. And it's just moments like this where you kind of forget Nocturne can be in your side lane instantaneously, but if you just play respectfully, then you just lose control.
Oh, I've seen this play before, as this time Faker does not get stunned up by the Solar Flare.
TP.
And Andil is dead, ladies and gentlemen. Teleport comes in from Doran, as Gumayusi may even delivered the kill. Never mind, it goes to the GOAT. Faker's like,
so like I said before, this is the kind of game with Andil where you're wondering, like, maybe is Pleta coming in the next series? No, I'm being facetious, I'm being mean, but he has tried to make so many plays, and it's so hard when there's a global on the other side, when Faker has the charm there, he's got the turret he can play through, they're trying to catch the king, and unfortunately they kind of keep missing because it's just on the slippery Ahri. They're trying to do anything they can from behind. And then when you fail, the Leona is going to die 4 times, but...
Yeah. Also, I don't think... There's just no real positives to speak of here at the moment. Oh, they did get a dragon. So there's that, as Doran is going to take a turret shot or 2. Never mind, he's got a hook shot, so he's just fine. Faker now getting to work here towards his bottom side. They already have feats of strength, but if they didn't, they could get them again by locking down that first turret. There it goes. And even more money into the coffers of T1. Gumayusi moving forward towards Lazyfield, who's just trying to take down minions in this mid lane, get to that 2-item spike that's feeling a little delayed at this point in time.
I mean, this is just an attempt to kill Faker that does not work. Even though he gets stunned by the rocks, UCal is like, well, I'm not going in on this. Unfortunately, that is a big Ahri. He also went big. So UCal just abandons Andil, and Andil just tries to buy time.
Yep.
Why they keep coming at me?
Yeah, what are they doing? And the thing is, I think a lot of people have learnt that focusing Faker in a side lane to the detriment of everything else is generally not a great strategy, as Doran looks for Sponge, and it doesn't work.
This could backfire.
I think it may already have backfired, as Faker is also dead. Sponge grabs another reset. This is where it's fine.
Okay.
As T1 take down the inner turret, and this one as well.
Faker die inside, and you get the cross map win is another archetype, because there's like Faker die inside, win the team fight. There's Faker die inside, in the cross map. There's also Faker teleport to die and win the cross map.
So this is the new T1 though with Doran. So it's Doran die inside, Faker come join him to die inside while they destroy multiple turrets elsewhere on the map.
Faker is just a bro, you know?
Exactly.
He wasn't going to leave Doran out alone. No way.
No. And Doran was out, by the way, guys. And then he just kind of messes up the hook shot as he stuns Rich and then flashes in the face of Sponge.
There was probably, in realistic talk, like there was probably a split call here, or a indecisive call. Like Faker's like, I think I could TP on it, and Doran's like, okay, I'm going back in, but the TP came very late. And
yeah. I think maybe it was just a let's see whether it works, and then they'll shelve that strategy and let's not do that anymore.
There's a small dip in the gold lead there, as showcased. So that's a positive for DRX, where everything else is coming up a little bit negative. A gold lead for Rich, which is pretty interesting considering the matchup, but...
I mean, if this game goes infinite time, DRX could win. So maybe they, like, if they still have like base turrets, they're already missing one, so it's already not going so well.
I mean,
but like if it goes really, really long, like the Scion will be impossible to kill. It's only Faker that does magic damage on this squad, and Ahri isn't necessarily known for being super good at cutting down front line.
I mean, Malignance and
Leandri certainly does help, but
I think it's the right build here. Just don't know if the game is going infinite time, especially because Guma's got his 2-item spike, and LazyField's still working on it. Maybe, you know, a few minutes, maybe a minute or two away from getting that right now. You know, it's pretty low, or pretty late 2-item spike to be hit for LazyField if he doesn't get it in the next minute or so, but he still will have it. So the problem is that they can't get control over the map to fight for objectives, and they keep getting picked in sides, and they keep losing turrets. You know, T1 has 5 turrets. They got the inhibitor turret.
Yeah.
So that's the part of the game that's making me feel like it's not going infinite time.
Oh yeah, like it's almost definitely not. However, I
wanted
to kind of like take a moment to mention like a scaling possibility, and then get back to reality immediately afterwards, because it just feels to me that I don't even think the compositions are all that relevant. It feels like DRX just aren't playing as well as what we saw of them in previous games, right? This is the team that managed to stop the Bros that were, you know, on a relatively decent streak.
I mean, Bro beat T1.
Right. And DRX not quite being able to do so here, as the Artican has been started. Can DRX find any angles here as the Paranoia comes on through, and down goes UCal once again. This guy's Talia has looked great. But I'm starting to doubt my memory right now.
Unfortunately, I think the issue is just you're not allowed to be by yourself ever into this Nocturne, even if they are doing Otacon, because they'll just collapse on you, and Owner just so good at that. And now they can just go straight back to the Otacon. Keria on this really cool flank here as well, as Faker shows up with his ult.
Yep, Depth Charge going to get a couple of knockups here as Sponge being held out of the Otacon pit. Keria will be taken out though, and now T1 rotating over yet again. Scion finds the knockup as Doran is dead once more. And now Faker just doing what he can to try and stay in this, and maybe I spoke too soon. The flash to try and get the knockup, but it's a great spell shield, and now Ona looking to try and turn it. This Scion is just massive on this front line though, and UCal has respawned. The wall comes on down, Ona is singled out, and Rich turned into a zombie, but I think he has well and truly done his job, and I take it all back. Maybe I did really need to talk about that scaling aspect. This Sion starting to look a bit strong.
Also, I think T1, I really liked Carria's flank idea, but they didn't collapse with him, and the whole team was disconnected on his depth charge they dropped. It was kind of similar to what DRX did in game 1 on their Baron, where they're like trying to hold Otacon, Carria's on this flank. Not this flank, this is where they kill UCal first, but when we actually go to the next one, because this was great, everything about this is totally fine. Yep, this is good. This one, Carria's on a really deep flank. Faker isn't here yet, and they don't collapse very well. Like, the Otacon's at half health. Faker is still not here. The TP is there, so he's like, I don't know about going in on that. So Carria ends up dying, and then they still commit in further. So it was just a very broken up fight here, and the ult from Guma is just way too late to layer on top of everything else. I think this is a nice win here for DRX, but really kind of T1 botched the execution of holding the Otacon there. And now DRX are going to get it.
Yeah, the response is this Otacon as Paranoia does come down. That is Sponge securing it. As now Doran trying to get in there. Owner is well and truly in there. I don't know about whether he wanted to be. As the charm comes down, Faker is cutting them all down. Both of the DPS have been eliminated. And Faker is just looking to kill everyone. Gumayusi grabs a piece of it, and Andil is going to be going down next. Gumayusi trying to get out of the way of Rich, who's just not someone that he is able to kill. And Faker will hunt down this Leona. T1, the punishment was immediate, as the Foxfire is going to be able to cut him out, as Gumayusi just spending some time outside of the queue. And yeah, as you can see, Gumayusi does need armor penetration if he ever wants to kill Sion. Look at that. Rich cannot die, by the way, guys, basically, as finally he does go down. And there goes
He gets a double?
Gumayusi. Does he get a double?
No, I don't think so.
The health bar is going down lower and lower and lower, and Carrier will be able to secure it. So there we go. Thankfully, the kill actually did come through, but we're starting to see the power of this Sion.
Yeah, also starting to see the power of just how good Faker is in these types of fights. And
yeah, look at this.
Slashes for the charm on the lazy field, deletes both carries, and then the fight is over. I don't care how tanky you are. You don't win these when the rest of the team is live. Now, you do win the kind of 1v2 against Guma if he stays too close, and that did happen. As Faker chased him down with the Foxfire, but consider also how close, like, DRX have to go for the Otacon, right? But Owner, if he's just there a little bit faster, he might have actually been able to get the Smite Seal. Might have just been a flip. You know, he has his ultimate, they get the vision just barely in time. This is just very silly. He unfortunately channeled his ult just too close to Rich there.
It felt like it was the Titan's Wrath from Carrier that actually managed to do damage to Sion, because that's like on-hit magic damage. As Carrier does hit the 5,000 assists, and he's also rewarded with a kill for his efforts, as we saw there towards the top side. As Doran getting closed in on here by UCal, as over the wall goes Sponge. Doran is going to then flash into Andil and gets immediately stunned. So there is a nice little advantage to be taken by DRX.
Rich TPing in. They don't want to turn this into a Baron call.
Yeah, how do you feel about a 4v5 Baron start?
Well, I've seen this before, but I think this time they'll make better decisions about it, right? This time they're all in the pit. Faker flank.
Yeah. I'm all about that optimism as well, as in goes Carrier looking for that angle. Once again, UCal is singled out and destroyed, and T1 just making it an uncomfortable time in the Baron pit. This time it's an immediate triple kill for Faker. Can he find more? The answer is absolutely, as the GOAT may pick up a Penta, and in fact, he almost definitely will. He's the only one that does damage to the Sion, so there's the Penta kill for Faker.
Faker with a Penta, and it's just perfect play on the Sari. 15 kills. And once again, he doesn't care about your front line. He doesn't care about your Sion. He's finding those damage dealers in the back, goes to the back of the pit, and deletes them instantly. Such great play on an iconic pick for Faker. He has so many of those. But the Ahri, we knew it was coming in the draft. They pull out Owner's Nocturne. They work together so incredibly well. And it's just been these two players against every single team, and Owner's picked up a lot of these POMs. I think it's going to be a split vote this time around with Faker's Ahri performance. It all starts off with Doran getting caught right. Then they turn to the Baron. Watch, you'll see Rich TP right after this on the Sion, because he's like, all right, we have to look for the Baron. We have to look for something here. Watch Faker. Just only watch Faker. And when the Nocturne holds up, he closes the gap, hits the charm onto UCal, goes on to Lazy Field, and they just collapse on him and kill him. It's just great play from Faker and the whole team. I mean, Owner turns off the lights, and yeah, you have a Sion as your front line, but they just kind of skipped it. They were like, all right, we'll just run past him.
Well, their entire front line was doing basically nothing the whole fight. Andil was standing in a brush. He spent the whole time just walking around. As Faker looking pretty chuffed with the pentakill there. And, oh man, it's just frustrating, Wolf, because DRX, we just watched them do it in the last game. You mentioned it before as they were going for the Baron. We're like, surely they're going to learn. No.
Not really.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely needed to look for the fight in this case, and trying to hold the Baron and try to rush it down, trying to burn it was unfortunately not the call, especially into this comp where Owner is just going to zoom through, turn the lights off. Maybe they'll catch him unawares. Nope.
They might catch him aware.
Yeah, he's aware.
That could be the way. That's all right. Spell Shield, not going to get that value as the knockup does come on in. The crash into the Nocturne as True Shot Barrage doesn't connect, but now the bullet time is going to cut down Sponge so quickly. Lazy Field, he's not getting out of there. And down he goes. T1 just a little bit too far ahead now as Yukal. He's going to come in, but he's kind of like Donald Glover, holding the pizza with his house on fire. As Rich is a zombie, and Faker is not even going to let Yukal get out of this one. He is going to get charmed and destroyed. There's another ace for T1. And you've got a bit of a palindrome when it comes to the score lines here. 13-31. T1 very happy about that as they're looking to close this one out 2-0 right now.
Yep, that's the end of that. Owner's like, all right, Xinjiao, got our button, can't get hurt. Pantheon got a shield, can't get hurt. He's like, Nocturne, spell shield close enough.
Yeah, and then you can also just turn off the lights so at least no one can see me get hurt.
This is one of the hardest bomb votes I think I've ever done, because I feel like Owner had an amazing game one, obviously. Faker had a great game one too. Like, it was both of them there, and there was both of them in the second one. I feel like Faker's Pentakill pushes him over the edge, but I feel like the game state wouldn't have been this aggressively T1s without Owner really helping him push the sides. Oh, what do I do, Atlas?
It's so hard because Faker's going to win. It's just about who you want to look like. You know, do you want to be the guy
that's
like...
or do you want to be...
Yeah.
I voted for a Penta last time. I'll vote for Owner this time.
All right, there you go. So you and Chronicler are going to be voting for Owner in this one. And I actually think, like, POM's so hard because recency bias is so frustrating. They should take a vote from everyone after game one and then aggregate the scores against game one votes as well.
That's
so
actually, you solved it.
Yeah, so that you bypass the recency bias.
Oh my God,
I think that's how it has to happen. There just needs to be double the votes is how that one works.
Because I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been, yeah, there you go, 5,000. But I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm like, it's been so wonky with Palm, and I feel like we don't celebrate both players who, ended up having a great win, like, because it takes 2 wins to win the series, right? But in situations like this, yeah, if you aggregate it, it becomes a little bit more interesting. It becomes a little bit more fair. I don't know if we'll change the rules just based on your sick idea, but I hope we do.
Well, it would be potentially a tie between Faker and Owner, and then maybe you break a tie by having recency bias, and that means the Faker wins.
So T1 win this series 2-0. Pretty clean. You know, there was some rough moments in game one, but not really. I mean, it was interesting. I mean, I thought DRX played the comp well, but their next matchup is against D+. It's the Saturday Showdown.
Oh, God.
And if they win that, they go to a 4-match streak. And I think the demise of T1 was vastly overstated. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion about what was going on in the bottom lane, some of the weak performances we were seeing there. And even when we see them that crop up a little bit sometimes, it just doesn't ultimately matter when your mid-jungle is this good. And when you're just able to play around objectives and team fight better than almost anyone in the league. And it starts to feel like, even though it took a while for us to feel this way and to feel confident about it, maybe T1 just is clearly our third best team. I mean, yes, they beat DRX, and this is not the win that's going to really push you over the edge, but they beat D+ cleanly later this week. Maybe that'll be the moment where we're like, I guess the standings aren't lying right now. They are just number 3.
And it's exactly the right time to be facing off against D+ as well. T1 really picking their moments in this game. And of course, they're gonna have a difficult strength of schedule as the season goes on, right? Because early on, they haven't necessarily had the most difficult opposition. So maybe it's a little bit counting your chickens too early, but you can never feel bad about a 4-match winning streak, and that is what they're looking at. And this comes back to what we were kind of talking about during the Telecom War. It always feels like a Telecom War is a springboard for the team who wins. And T1 are utilizing this springboard very, very effectively at this point in time. KT also not having a bad time after their victory over DK yesterday as well, as we're having a listen to T1 in this final team fight. DRX playing with a lot of desperation in this one.
Finally stopped that bullet time, but the bullet time stopped the health bars of DRX players beforehand. Unfortunately, as they try to punish Owner. I will say that there were some big errors made by DRX in this game, but overall, it just felt like T1 punished them super hard. When they were ahead, DRX just kept fishing for anything they could find, because you're so far behind. What are you going to do? Is Ceremony here from Faker as he picks up another pentakill.
Yeah, pressing a lot of buttons, making sure that he keeps things on cooldown. I love cooldown efficiency. It is absolutely fantastic. As T1, they do silently destroy the Nexus. And let's have a look at some of these damage numbers. Yeah, Faker with 30k. That is over triple what UCal put down. It was not UCal's day today.
Yeah, no, Rich also kind of doing large
He built a
numbers.
Thornmail, by the way.
Yeah, he was standing on top of them sometimes and doing as much damage as possible.
And it's going to be Faker that picks it up. I don't think anyone's too surprised about that one.
I do feel like you really could have gone either way. It's a chicken and the egg situation, I think, in game 2, but Faker played so incredibly well in the team fights, but Owner set him up for that play by turning the lights off. He set up the side lanes. Game 1, it's like both of them played incredibly well. He played super well on the Victor, but Owner's Pantheon.
If the GOAT gets a penta, you stand up and recognize. That's how it works here in the LCK, is what it sort of feels like to me.
For Owner.
Yeah, no, I probably would have as well. But that might be what is being thought of around the rest of the LCK. And honestly, I don't mind. As long as it's either Faker or Owner, I expect both of those to be the only votes that are kind of allowed, which kind of feels like 2025. Let's throw it over to Faker now with the interview.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Dear for the POM interview translation, joined by Faker on the side of T1. What a cute carnation pin on your head. Thank you so much for the interview today. You got your 3-win streak after defeating DRX. How do you feel? From the start of round 2, I feel like we're off a great momentum with a good winning streak, so it makes me very happy. And Victor is your most played champion. You've been showing a great performance with him, and in game 1, it was a bit slow in the middle, but you closed it out with a win. So what was the compositional strength that you were trying to focus on? You know, towards the mid to end game, I think we just had higher potential as a composition, and I think we were just trying to play it out slow, and that's the type of the macro that we try to apply on this game. And you versed Annie in game 1. And how was playing against her after the buff this patch? You know, after the buff for Annie, I think it was definitely something that was on my mind, and I think she's definitely viable. We're going to start seeing a lot more of Annie from now on. Did you happen to see UCal's interview before? You know, he said, regardless of winning or losing, UCal said he really wanted to take a picture with you, so would you do him the honor? You know, just the fact that UCal likes me so much is such an honor. Of course, I can take a picture with him. And in game 2, you played Ahri. You're juggling, and the damage and the pentakill was so amazing. That's not it. You got 16 kills with Ahri, and you broke your personal all-time highest kill record in a game. So let's give it up for Faker. Congratulations. And it was your birthday yesterday, so perhaps this was a birthday present for yourself, this pentakill? Yeah, I just feel like I got a great present for myself. And it was a great result. I'm very satisfied. It was the first penta since 2015 after 10 years. So, of course, we're gonna have to look at the replay again. How did you feel in this moment? Yeah, I was actually quite focused on getting the pentakill. I ended up getting so many kills, and then I asked for the penta from my team. And after how many kills did you think about getting the penta? After I killed the Scion. And you said to your teammates, I appreciate the meal, with a smirk. You must have felt great. You know, yeah, today's Parents' Day in Korea. So I would say I felt like being a great son to my parents. Yeah, just as you are wearing this carnation pin, would you like to say anything to your family? You know, during my professional career, thank you so much, and I appreciate all the support that I get from my family. And I want to keep playing well to pay your support back. And there is much more left to celebrate. Keria has reached 5,000 assists in the LCK, and that's such a fast milestone that he has achieved because he's actually catching up to your assists as well. How does it feel? You know, I wasn't really paying attention to all the milestones, but hearing that Keria is catching up to me, well, I guess I just have to play even harder and work harder. And would you like to say anything to Keria then? Well, congratulations. And this upcoming Saturday, you will have the Saturday Showdown against D plus Kia. What's your resolution? You know, in order to advance to MSI, it's going to be so crucial to beat D plus Kia, so we will try our best. And that's the end of the interview with Faker. And back to the space. Thank you.